Okay, so today I'm going to make a video comparing the the preamps on the this is the Sound Devices MIXPRE 6. This is the Sound Devices 633. So 6 series versus the MIXPRE series. I bought this MIXPRE when I first started getting into location sound and doing interviews and stuff like that. It's served me really well over the time that I've had it. I think it's a great sounding piece of equipment, but since the jobs I've been getting have been kind of growing in scope, I've upgraded to a 633. So the main differences between these units, so that's probably your biggest concern or question, is what's the difference between these two. MIXPRE series, or MIXPRE 6, I don't know about the 3 if it shares this, but the MIXPRE 6 does not have a timecode generator in it. It can read and stamp timecode, so without the timecode generator, it will stamp time of day timecode to anything that you record if you activate that option in the menu. But to stamp anything, I think it stamps at like 30 non-drop or 2997 non-drop without a generator. Don't quote me on that. But if you have something like a ambient or a tentacle connected to this thing, it will receive that timecode and stamp it to your files. So it is compatible with timecode, it just doesn't generate, which is good and bad. It's good that it can use timecode, it's bad that it doesn't generate timecode. Whereas the 633 has a built-in timecode generator, an ambient one, so I mean that really helps you out on set if you have your recorder generating, because then you can just jam from there rather than you know, having to just jam from a sync box. The difference between these two recorders specifically is this has 6 inputs, so 3 mic inputs and then 3 line level inputs. This has, again, 6 inputs, but the aux inputs don't, or you can't use them if you're using timecode. So for my sake, if I'm on set recording and we're using timecode, which 90% of the shoots that I'm on we're shooting with timecode, I lose 2 channels to record on. So that was one of the bigger reasons why I upgraded to this guy. Because I don't need like a 664 or a 688 with like a bunch of extra tracks. I just need the ability to use all 6 rather than just be stuck with 4. And also, you only have 4 faders on your MIXPRE, so 5 and 6 you can't really mix them. They're just there for recording purposes if you need them. The one nice thing about the MIXPRE as opposed to the 633 is the MIXPRE has these combo jacks, so TRS XLR. Some people love them, some people hate them, but that's not where I'm getting with that. It's that this has 4 inputs that you can assign phantom power to. They're mic level inputs, whereas the 633 has only 3 inputs that are mic level. So you have these 3 XLR inputs, and then you have 3 line level inputs. So you can only use something like 3 phantom powered mics with the 633, whereas with the MIXPRE you could potentially use 4 if that's what you needed. Have I ever shot with more than 2 shotgun mics or phantom powered mics on set? Yeah, but very rarely. It's only if you're doing something like planting a wireless boom or planting a mic somewhere that needs phantom power. Will you need it often? Probably not. So I would say the MIXPRE series with these extra phantom powered inputs, excellent if you're going into something like, if you were going to broadcast on Twitch, or if you were a podcaster, right? You could have your 4 mics going with the MIXPRE, and you've got your 4 faders, you're golden, good to go, right? Whereas with the 633, it just gives you a lot more options somewhere where if you're on a film set and you need, or if you're doing interviews, right, and you just need versatility. So this is a much more versatile unit, the 633, as opposed to the MIXPRE. yeah, that's probably it for biggest differences. Oh, another difference that I almost forgot. That was one of the bigger reasons why I upgraded. So, I think it's on this side. So, the MIXPRE series has one stereo output. I'm trying to focus, but it's not really going. Yeah, so stereo output. That is the only output on the device other than the headphone output, right? So let's say you're working on a set, you've got your boom operator, you've got a script supervisor, you've got producers and directors, right? And you've got scratch audio feed that you're trying to give to the camera. This MIXPRE cannot really fulfill all those needs. You could give everybody the same feed that's going to the camera, or you could just say no scratch camera feed, but you've only got one stereo output. So when I was working on set, it was either the producers and directors would have to share my boom ops feed, or my boom op would have to work with the whole mix going through his headphones, right? And that's really not what I was looking for, right? So the 633, we've got two main outputs here, so I can feed camera scratch directly out of these, right? You've got your camera return, headphone output, two extra outputs there, right? And then an extra output over here, right? So you have so many more options for routing as opposed to the MIXPRE. So, and I believe the 633 is 10 tracks, and the MIXPRE 6 is only is 8, if I'm not mistaken. So those are probably the biggest differences between the two. So now I'll get into testing the preamps on these guys. Okay, so right now we're listening to the 633 with the Sheps CMC 641 microphone. The gain is set about just above halfway. So yeah, we're averaging about like between -20 and -12. Yeah, I'll be quiet for a second so you guys can kind of hear if there's a lot of self noise or if the room's really loud. So I'm in my basement right now. Not the most ideal recording environment, but it'll, you'll still get the idea. Well, there you go. Okay, so now you're hearing the MIXPRE 6. We're still using the Sheps microphone. The gain on this is about the same. I'm getting the same levels that I was before. Yeah. The headphone amps on these two are a little different, so it's hard to tell while you're using the two. The differences, I can tell you that listening through my headphones right now, the MIXPRE headphone amplifier sounds a lot more nasally, kind of. It sounds a little honky, the headphone output. I mean, a lot of companies don't really spend a whole bunch of time on the headphone amps, just enough so that you can hear kind of what's going on. Yeah, that's probably the main difference that I'm hearing right now, is it sounds a little more nasally in the headphone amp department. So I'll give you another couple seconds of silence so that you can hear the machine and the room that I'm in. Yeah, so. So my big questions for you guys is, if you're a consumer and you're not really or like a media consumer, you're not really into pro audio or recording or film even, what did you hear? Did you hear a difference between the two? Was it something that if you were watching something and you heard one versus the other, what one would you prefer to hear and why? If you're in the market of buying, or you've already bought one of these units, what were your pros and cons for each one? Why did you, if you were like me and you went out and bought a MIXPRE and you've upgraded, or if you had a 633 or 6 series or 7 series and you bought a MIXPRE, what made you buy one? I was gonna sell my MIXPRE. I'm still kind of considering it, but It's such a great tool for if you want to live stream stuff, um, or if you're a videographer, right? Or you could rent it out to your buddies for their video projects and stuff. But the 633 is definitely more of a workhorse machine, something that you're going to get a lot more versatility out of as opposed to the MIXPRE. But I've used the MIXPRE on countless projects. It sounds great. It's an amazing piece of gear. And for the price point, I can't remember. I bought the MIXPRE, a battery, and an L-mount battery, and the L-mount sled, and it came out to about 1,400 Canadian, I think, and I bought that new, so it's a little bit different for you guys Americans. Our dollar is really bad. So, and I got this 633 with 4 batteries and 4 chargers and a petrol bag for 3,300 Canadian, and I got it used. So, if you can go out there and find a used deal on a 6 series or a 7 series, that's a step you should probably take. But if you're just getting started, I can wholeheartedly recommend getting a MIXPRE. Now there's 3 different MIXPREs. There's a 3, 6, and the 10. The 10, I've never used it, but it looks stellar. It looks really great. If you've used it, let me know what you think about it. And until next time, thanks for checking this out.